Welcome to the IndyCar Debrief, where we're taking you behind the scenes of the 2021 NTT IndyCar Series and helping you make your picks for the IndyCar Series Fantasy Challenge driven by Firestone. Be sure to sign up at fantasy.indycar.com or join through the IndyCar app. I'm Jen Horsey, and I'm here today with co-hosts Conor Daly and Racer Magazine's Laurence Foster. This week, we're all about the 500, and we'll catch up with the driver making his second start in the greatest spectacle in racing, Rinus VeeKay. But before we get to that, let's talk about how we got our grid for the 105th running of the Indy 500. So Conor, took a look. You're on the inside of the 7th row behind Hinchcliffe. Were you nervous at all when you went to bed Friday night, whether you were going to make the show? I know I would be having stress nightmares.
No, thankfully we were pretty confident we'd be in the show. And if we weren't, we were something catastrophic was going to happen. So yeah, honestly, Friday though was a bit nerve-wracking for us because all week in race trim we've been really strong. The car is fantastic in the draft, cuts through traffic, not easily because no one's passing cars very easily, but it's been very, very strong. But when we started peeling all the downforce out of it and we got the extra horsepower, the car was definitely very, very sketchy for me on Fast Friday. And so that kind of led to our poor qualifying performance. We kind of had to tune the car a little bit so I could just basically not crash. And yeah, so I'm very disappointed personally with qualifying because, you know, I think we had the speed in the car to be up with our teammates. But the way it worked out with our late draw, it meant that we were, you know, late in the day. And by the time we got the engine cooled down to do a second run, it was too hot and the engine overheated in the second run. So there was a lot of things that happened in qualifying, but I definitely wasn't nervous about making the show. I was just angry that we didn't do better than what we did.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We talked about how anything can happen on bump day. What about Will Power having to fight his way into the 11th row? Laurence, walk us through some of the highlights. It was a crazy qualifying.
Yeah, I think it boils down to the story of four teams. Scott Dixon leading the Chip Ganassi charge. I mean, that was incredible. All four Chip Ganassi entries in the top four. Scott Dixon gets his fourth pole position, looks pretty majestic, and also, you know, based on his form last year as well, looks maybe the guy to beat. But also Ed Carpenter Racing, as Connor's explained, you know, those cars basically brought it for Chevrolet. Connor's explained, you know, why he wasn't one of the Fast 9 ones, but with Rinus VeeKay and the boss basically starting third and fourth, you know, they're looking very strong. A couple of Andretti cars in the mix there as well. Colton Herta just missing out on pole by 0.03 mile per hour. He's been saying basically that he likes his cars sketchy. His dad, Brian, maybe isn't quite so happy about that as an approach, but certainly a great effort there by Colton. And then the fourth team, basically the story of Penske. You know, during the week, Penske were being Penske, basically. Great form heading into the race, but basically lost it completely when it came to qualifying trim.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. There seemed to be an entirely different setup for qualifying than compared to the race setup. I know we were on very, very different setups going from qualifying back to race trim for Sunday night. And yeah, it's just really wild to see that happen. I mean, the Sunday qualifying day was just absolutely electric. I mean, the energy behind the Fast 9, but also the absolute emotion behind, you know, trying to make the race. I mean, watching Will Power smack the wall in turn 2 and still just never lift and qualify for the race. I mean, it just shows how hard it is. Like, it's not like Will Power's just driving around and, you know, his car's like obviously not fast enough for Will Power. And sometimes you just get those cars at Indy. Like, the guy's having to work really hard to get there too. I mean, I've been in a situation like that before. I know what that's like. And it's really, really hard to believe. Like, if you would have asked me, you know, like, I'm starting in the same row as Harvey and Newgarden, and Harvey, we thought, had one of the fastest cars, but early in the week, he had to change an engine. Then his first qualifying run, they had a crazy set of tires that was like extremely bad and had some wild vibration. I mean, it was just such a weird day for a lot of people that we thought were going to be strong. And yeah, those Penske cars by themselves, I mean, it was just mind blowing to watch happen. But that is the electricity of Indy 500 qualifying. You just never know what's going to happen. And it was really cool to not have to deal with that, bump day stuff, but also really great for, our team, Ed Carpenter, and Ed, certainly his energy being in the Fast Nine again was, much better than where we were last year. So it's been interesting this month, but it's been, it was really, really cool to see. And just to get back in the car Sunday after all the qualifying business is finished and just be right back into race trim.
And how are you feeling about your race trim setup?
We are really good. I think I really don't say that often. But the fact that we've never been worse than fifth all practice long. I mean, second, third. I mean, we've been up in the top three most of the sessions. So it's really, really cool to see that. I think right now, looking at the weather as well, like if it's cooler, our car again, like the beginning of the weekend practice on the Tuesday and the Wednesday was a little bit cooler before it got really hot on Thursday and Friday. We've got really, really fast cars. So it's going to be a little bit harder for me. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work to get up to my teammates, but I don't doubt that we will be able to join them at the front. If we strategize correctly, we get around some people and just start making moves.
All right. So I picked the 7th row, I think, really well because, Conor, I had you and I had Joseph. How about you? Who were your picks?
I completely forget. I know I swear, though, that I said Ganassi were going to be very fast because they were looking strong as soon as we got on track. So I feel like I had some good brain work there. But I don't know. I honestly forgot who I picked because it must have been Harvey and maybe Ed. So I don't know. I think I completely forget. But clearly, after looking at the scores, it was not optimal.
Well, let's look at those scores. I think my Colton Herta pick definitely redeemed me and got me at least a little bit in the points here. Laurence, walk us through how we did.
Yeah, no, we're all continuing our journey into mediocrity. The RACER Racing supercomputer, I think, saved itself with Alex Palou and with Rinus basically bumping us up. But boy, oh boy, we didn't do well again. Putting in perspective, the enigmatic Wink was the highest score there on 164. But we are certainly beginning to lose ground, gang.
Well, I still think that we've got the inside line. Maybe we know too much. Maybe that's the challenge. People definitely have to keep tuning in to get all the perspectives. I know this week's guest turned out to be a big pick, qualifying 3rd for only his 2nd Indy 500 start. I want to welcome Rinus VeeKay to the show. Rinus, hello.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I've been thinking with the 3 abreast sort of starting grid for the 500, I'm curious where you want to be in the lineup. I mean, you're on the front row, but I've done a lot of stuff in rallycross where you never want to be in the middle. And sometimes you want to be in that 4th position instead of the 3rd position. You want to be behind pole instead of on the outside. You started 4th last year, you're 3rd this year. Tell me where you want to be on that grid.
I think either 1st or 3rd is going to be a nice position. In the middle is not ideal, but Indy 500 is a long race. It's at least with my car, with the ECR car, it's not very hard to pass. So especially with 2 cars in front of you. So I think it's just going to be a matter of coming through in the first lap and making sure you stay in contention until the end of the race.
So you had a very strong start to the month with a win here early in May. How are you going to keep that momentum up?
Yeah, definitely had a huge start. I think it also helped the whole atmosphere in the team. Everyone's very happy and the whole crew is enjoying. So this is very nice. And yeah, I think, now with my best ever, well, it's my 2nd Indy 500 qualifying, but front row is very nice to top the month of May, and then ideally win the 500. That would be amazing.
Hey Rinus, it's been quite a couple of weeks for Dutch racing. Obviously, you winning the GMR Grand Prix we had Max Verstappen winning the Monaco Grand Prix on Sunday. A few hours later, you put yourself on the front row. How has it been received back in the Netherlands? I mean, so much success from you and Max.
Yeah, it's been received very nicely. You know, Dutch people are big racing fans because of Max Verstappen. They're crazy fanatic. So yeah, it's hard to take over that Orange Army, how we call them in the Netherlands, from Max. But now, really, after that first win in the GMR Grand Prix, it's becoming huge, and yeah, I'm the big talk in the Netherlands now, which is very cool.
And you and Conor are teammates. How much do you guys share with each other? I mean, you're competing against each other, but you're aligned.
Well, we share as much as we need to as teammates, but yeah, we always want to help each other, I guess. And you know, we're both quite crazy, but we are very different people. You know, Ed is like the father. Well, Conor needs no explanation, and then I'm kind of like the kid in the team. So no, we have a good cooperation in the team, but yeah, I think it's all very healthy.
Yeah, I think young Rinus obviously has done a great job for the team. I think there's always, I've never had a teammate younger than me. Oddly enough, this is the first time in my career where I think I've had a teammate that's been younger, except for actually when R.C. Enerson was my teammate way back into my rookie year. So it's always been like me kind of looking up to my other teammates. And then having Rinus it's kind of wild. Like I have the experience, which seems strange, but he's obviously proving to gain the experience very, very fast and provide us with great Dutch snacks like the stroopwafels. Can you tell us more about the stroopwafels, please, Rinus?
Yeah, stroopwafels. It's actually stroopwafels.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and they say there's caramel inside, but it's stroop. That's the stuff that's inside. So it's a big scam here in the US, but no, they're good snacks, and yeah, maybe a little too good.
They're like little mini waffles with caramel inside of them, and they're very delicious.
Yeah, you get them on the airplane.
Oh, they're amazing.
So it's not caramel. I mean, sure, we'll take a tangent. It's a Conor question. If it's not caramel, what is it?
Yeah, it's a Dutch thing. We put it on. It's kind of like a syrup. We put it on pancakes. It's not like maple syrup.
Yeah, I'm Canadian. I find that offensive. It's only on pancakes.
It's like Dutch syrup. It's kind of like pure sugar.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just it's mysterious stuff.
So I hear your mom and dad are camped out with you in your apartment here in Indy this week. What's it like to have all that family support?
Yeah, they're here in Indy. They kind of took over the apartments. I'm now in the motorhome, and this will be my home for the month of May. But it's great to have them here. Of course, I think people have seen on the broadcast they're very excited, and it's been a very, very successful last 2 weeks. So it's great to share that with them.
So if your teammate Ed Carpenter, if he starting fourth, if he's firing it up the inside of you into turn 3 on lap 1, what's your reaction going to be like? What are we doing? Are we defending? Are we going easy? What's our move here?
Well, it will be a different answer, lap 1 or lap 199. But yeah, like lap 1, I would let it go and try to see what he does. He's got a lot of experience. But I think on lap 199, lap 200, it's all or nothing, and anyone else is an obstacle.
Good call.
Everyone else is an obstacle. That's kind of the quote of the day. I will be thinking about that when I watch the race on the weekend. So this race is so big, right? Like it's the biggest spectacle in sport. Like it isn't. When you are lined up on the grid, and when this year you're lined up on the front row, is the thinking any different? Is it in the back of your mind that this is the 500? Like this isn't just another race?
Well, definitely. This is one of the only. I'm not very nervous often, but for the 500, I am nervous. So yeah, it's it's the biggest race, and it's it's just something special. So I'm I have a good qualifying position, and I think I really have a car where I can have a shot at winning the race. So that really builds up the pressure. But I think it's just gonna be living the dream.
And I have to think about this week as being a little bit weird, right? Like you're on the track last weekend and then you're not on the track again until Friday. What do you do with yourself between now and, and the next time you hit the track?
Yeah, I try to keep my mind off racing as much as possible. So like workout, you know, try to just stay active and kind of keep my mind free of racing. But it's tough, like I know I have a very fast car, and we had that practice after qualifying, and the car just felt really really good. So it gives you time to think, but also like overthink. So it's hard to find a good balance with that. But I think I'm doing well so far.
Nice. Is it very glamorous, Connor? Are you guys like going out to dinner and doing fun things, or is it like locked in at the gym?
I mean, I haven't even had an opportunity to go to the gym yet. I had a go-kart racing event this morning, and then into another U.S. Air Force appearance at a high school today, and then now I'm doing this wonderful program here, and then have another event after this. So I think Rinus has had a lot today too. So he's just being nice. But there's a lot of media stuff that we've got to do this week, and we just got to make sure people are ready to watch this race. Like it's going to be an electric show out there, and we want to make sure every single person's eyes are locked in on Memorial Day weekend for the Indy 500.
Well, I think you guys are having some time to think about who your picks are. I think Rinus, I'd like to hear what you're thinking. So for a regular season race, we would pick a team and a podium, a team of 4 and a podium with 3 more. This weekend, big race, everything's double points, double choices. You can pick up to 8 drivers you think are going to be top performers this year. But I really want to know who you think your top 3 finishers would be this year.
So I'm thinking, I don't want to be overconfident, but I think I can win this race. So I'm going to put myself on number 1. I think Scott Dixon's going to be super fast. He was like on it all week in practice. So I think he's gonna be one to watch, and he's gonna be tough on track. And I think Ed Carpenter is gonna be very strong. I know he has a great car, and he has so much experience, and I think he's gonna round out the podium.
Very nice. Anybody you're thinking of as like a long shot who could put in a spectacular performance, but we might not think of?
I think Connor. I know how good his car is. And it's hard for him to come from P19. You're not passing, 18 people in a few laps. It's just hard to have so much traffic in front of you. It really messes with the air on the wings. So it's gonna be tough. But I think Connor's, I think he's very strong. He's been very strong in traffic all week. So I will not be surprised if he's gonna be in my mirrors at one time in a race.
All right. Well, those are some solid picks. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll let you get ready for the big weekend. Sounds like you guys all have a ton of stuff to do, and some stroopwafels for dessert. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Speaking of this big weekend, though, Laurence, I alluded to this a little bit with Rinus, but this is the Indy 500, so the picks look a little bit different. Can you walk us through exactly what we're picking this weekend?
Oh yeah, this is a huge one. So it's 8 drivers. It's $200 to play with. They're spoiling you, but also this is the big one as well. It's double points, double race points. So you think about it, 8 drivers and double race points. This is the equivalent of 4 standard races. This can really make or break a season.
So what are some of the storylines you're following heading into this weekend?
Well, obviously, it's we're looking at Scott Dixon. The guy completely dominated last year. Was outfoxed by Takuma Sato there in the end. Takuma is looking for his 3rd win, but also guys who basically, as Rinus has said, we've got 2 Road to Indy graduates on the front row who are massively quick. We've got a couple of veterans in the field there, up at the sharp end with TK, Tony Kanaan, Helio. Every time Helio starts an Indy 500, he is on the verge of matching history. He can become a 4-time winner. So, watch out for the old guys, but also, the fact that they've shown speed this month. A lot of storylines, and also, I think as Conor spoke to us about it before the show started as well, it should be a picture postcard perfect day as well. Just the right temperature for a superb Indy 500, I think, Conor.
I certainly hope so. I mean, obviously the weather changes here every day. So the sad part is what we see now could change entirely, come race day. But as it's looking, the cooler temperatures that we get, the better of a race it will be. I know on our side, we would potentially look at trying to trim out, take some downforce out of it if it's cooler, because our car is a rocket ship. If we can just get it to be just a little bit more trim than anyone else, because when it's super hot, you just pile in as much downforce as possible and hope you can hang on. But if it's a little bit less aggressively hot, you might be able to get away with some different downforce settings. So we'll be really curious to see what the teams roll out with. But I think the grid is very interesting. Like, you've got guys like Pietro Fittipaldi as well, who has never done an Indy 500, who is right up at the front at P13. And you've got Rinus and Ed, who are obviously going to be really, really strong. All the Ganassi cars are going to be fast. Like, they're as you mentioned, Tony Kanaan is a very solid pick. Like, if you can get him for cheap, and Elio as well. I think Elio has looked good in traffic. He's been fast, like, obviously overall. I haven't been around him too much on track and traffic, but there's no way that he's not going to be fast. It's just Elio, and he's starting up front as well. I think me coming from the back will be, I'm definitely going to be doing that. I think Joseph can as well. I'd also like to think that Sage Karam looked like pretty decent in traffic as well. Like, that could be something that is a good, bang for the buck. Sage has not been bad in traffic at all, and he's shown speed as well in the practice days. So his car clearly tows well. So there's a couple different options that I would look at there. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the field starts to mix up as we start getting into the pit stop. You get 2, 3, 4 pit stops in, and never know what's going to happen with cautions, but hopefully we avoid those.
So yeah, I mean, the picks are starting to emerge. I'm definitely looking at Tony Kanaan. He's one of my favorite drivers, and I'm excited to see him race this weekend. I don't know, man. Laurence, what are the Fantasy League insights from Racer Magazine?
Well, let's throw a few recommendations your way, and starting obviously with a couple of very obvious ones. Do you need to ask why we're recommending Scott Dixon? He's the most expensive guy in the field, and rather apt that his price is 33. TK starts 5th. A huge amount of experience, and in a genuinely quick car this year. Watch out for TK. But we're also recommending all 3 of the Ed Carpenter racing cars. Obviously, we've got Rinus and Ed up there at the sharp end. But, we've seen the pace of Conor in race trim already last week. And, Conor is a bloke who basically isn't afraid to pass a car or 4. So, expect to see him, heading towards the front pretty quickly, I think, Conor. A couple of other choices as well. Graham Rahal, he is a guy who is pretty often in the mix at Indy. He was 3rd last year behind Scott Dixon and Takuma Sato. He's 2021. He's been a guy with momentum, and he looks racy as well. Colton Herter, obviously, starting 2nd. Not too many sort of bullets in the gun around him from Andretti, but he will be in the mix. And Pato O'Ward, McLaren, Arrow McLaren SP. It's been a kind of fairly quiet week for them at Indianapolis so far, but I think based on Pato's form, And based on McLaren, I think having a good race setup, watch out for Pato in the mix as well.
Yeah, I think a few people that we haven't really talked about as well are Ryan Hunter-Reay and Alex Rossi. I think Ryan Hunter-Reay obviously has some speed. I don't really know how good the Andretti cars are in traffic. I've been around them a little bit, but I think Colton, there's no doubt he's going to be up there the whole race. His crew is good. His car is good. His car clearly has speed. But Ryan's got a ton of experience, and so does Alex. And those guys could be an interesting pick. There was at times we thought as well, Pato's car we thought was very, very sporty. About midweek last week, we were thinking Pato looked really, really good. They kind of fell off a little bit. But yeah, there's a couple names that kind of have floated under the radar, as you said, who are, probably sorted out to have a decent race. And even Scott McLaughlin. Scott McLaughlin was one of those guys in traffic last week and even at the test who looked like it was, he was slicing through people like bread. So it was wild. So I think there's so many questions, and it all depends on who's got the biggest balls on race day to trim out if it's cold, or who just makes the best decisions at the right time.
Interesting. Yeah, I have Alex, I think, in my picks. I'm going to go with a long shot in Simona. I don't know how possible it is to come back from that last row, but I'm very excited to see her on the grid. And another long shot, Montoya, mostly because he picked chocolate milk, and I just kind of want to see that happen.
No shot. Sorry. I'm sorry. I can't. I like Juan a lot. I do. But the poor guy looks like he's struggling in traffic. I don't know. They might find the magic cure on race day, and I might look like a fool, which I'm happy to look like, clearly. Look at my hair. Yeah, I don't know. That's a bold pick, Jen. Bold pick.
Well, I mean, so my favorite document in racing, and I've spent a lot of time in like race controls and rules documents and whatever. My favorite document in all of racing is that milk document, the milk picks document, official motorsport, IndyCar official letterhead. It's like handled by officials, and it's the milk pick. What kind of milk did you pick? Were you to win the Indy 500? What milk will you be drinking on the podium?
Well, I did receive a lot of internet hate and directed aggression towards me for picking skim milk last year, which I blame on my mother because that's the only milk that was in our house growing up. So I didn't think any other milk existed. And so this year I was like, you know what? 2% seems like the norm. That seems like what everyone's doing. So I'm on the 2% game. I walk into the office, Ed Carpenter's like, why aren't you doing whole milk? And I was like, great question, Ed. I have no idea. You know what? Next year we'll figure that out.
Yeah. Official choices, right? Whole milk, 2%, skim milk. And then a few drivers have written in buttermilk to be very traditional about it. Ed Carpenter is one of them. Simona is one of them. So I'm just looking at my list here. And then Juan Pablo Montoya wrote in chocolate milk, which I've never seen before. And I just thought that was amazing. So
He's just trolling.
That is going to look terrible on a race suit if he does manage to pull it off. That is going to be shockingly bad.
Yeah.
So Laurence, what are your picks? I mean, I'm picking at this point based on milk choice. So what are your picks?
Well, the RACER supercomputer, I don't think we programmed milk into it, but let's go with the expensive screen first. We cannot not pick Scott Dixon. Okay, he's basically broken our bank already. We've gone for Graham Rahal. Now that was a toss-up between going for Graham or going for Takuma or going for Alex Rossi, but there's just a feeling that maybe this is going to be Graham's day. Tony Kanaan and Ed Carpenter. Now, Ed, in previous years, has probably qualified better than he's raced on the whole, but I've just got a feeling that Ed is going to basically put in a good one. And don't forget as well, he did finish second in 2018. Based on those expensive picks, we also have a more value for money screen. Fantastic that Rinus is still only $23. We've also gone for Jack Harvey. Now, this could have been Conor, but we are sticking to the Conor rule, which is basically we are not picking Conor until he has banked something big. And, this could be the weekend. But, yeah, Conor, in deference to you, we've gone for Jack.
Good call.
We've also
Good
gone
call.
for sorry, Conor?
I said that's a great call.
Well, we'll see. I think, in hindsight, we maybe should have done the Conor route. But Scott McLaughlin, basically, he's the only Penske we can afford at this point. But we expect to see, all four of them coming through the field. There is no way that between Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, and Simon Pagenaud, one of those isn't going to be somewhere near the sharp end pretty quickly into the race. And then with our remaining cash, we've gone for J.R. Hildebrand, a guy who is really, really consistent in his Indy 500 one-offs. And the fact that he's running the 1961 AJ Foyt paint scheme, that's got to be a good omen for JR. It takes us to $199, so it means that we've got $1 left over to go towards a monster smoked turkey leg. So yeah, Indy 500, baby.
Very nice. Conor, what are you thinking? You got any more suggestions for us?
4 right off the rip here. Graham, not me. Rinus, Ed. I can't not pick Rinus and Ed, honestly. Like, both of them are fast. Ed's got great experience, and after last year where Ed got hit literally on lap 1, like, I'm just excited to see him in race mode again. But Graham is right. Every time you say a driver, I'm like, yeah, I could see that happening. So I think Scott McLaughlin and Graham, I think those are 2 guys that you can count on. I was going to say something about JR, you're right. But, just curious to see what level of speed, he's got come race trim. And Simon. I mean, those Penske guys, they have incredible brains, very, very smart people, and incredible pit crews. So without a doubt, there's going to be some wizardry going on there. And at some point, the 22 or the 2 or the 3 or the whatever else number they are, maybe even Will Power. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it, but you never know. Will Power could end up at the front as well.
No matter how you cut it, it's going to be an amazing race. I cannot wait to watch. Thank you very much for sharing your recommendations with us, both of you guys. And also thank you to Rinus VeeKay for joining us. Make sure you sign up for the IndyCar Series Fantasy Challenge driven by Firestone. Go to fantasy.indycar.com to sign up and make your picks, or check it out on the IndyCar app. And be sure to tune in this weekend for the greatest spectacle in racing. Watch it all live, the 105th running of the Indy 500, starting on Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's Carb Day, the final practice on NBCSN and Peacock. And then the big race day on Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. with the pre-race show on NBCSN. From 11 to 4, it's the big race on NBC. And from 4 to 5, watch it all recap with the post-race show on NBCSN. For Conor, Laurence, and myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Racer channel on YouTube, or find us wherever you get your podcasts.